Hello everyone, happy Friday and welcome to Build a Powerful Network and Accelerate Your Growth webinar. I'm Vasil Adorov, CEO at Startup Socials and online events producer at Business to Community. Today we have a very exciting presentation for you. We'll have a lot of fun today on Friday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And I have a very special guest, Liron Glickman, with me. Liron is an energetic business networking coach, speaker, and award-winning author. She helps entrepreneurs, startups, and business owners around the world to achieve their goals through smart creation and management of authentic business relationships, both online and offline. Liron, how are you today?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. How are you today, this lovely Friday noon?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us all the way from the East Coast. And before we get started, I just want to plug in a few reminders here. If you would like to tweet any key takeaways from today's webinar, feel free to tweet at us directly, as well as you can type all your questions into the chat box located on the left corner of the screen. You can tweet with the hashtag StartupSocials. And also a couple of other reminders. In case you miss a portion of this recording, it will be available to you on demand. And I will be sending a follow-up email with a link to the presentation. So with that, I also want to mention that this webinar is brought to you by the Startup Socials. We are a global community of entrepreneurs built to connect and empower people in the startup ecosystem. Speaking of which, before I pass it on to Liron, I would like to take a quick poll and see who is attending our webinar live. So would you mind just submitting an answer here, and we can see how Liron and I can customize, hopefully, our talk based on who is in the audience today. All right, so let's give it another 5 seconds or so. And we'd like to make it as interactive as possible. So if at any point you have a question, feel free to type it in and we'll address it right away. Okay, so looks like we have more than half people who are here submitted their responses. Let's give it 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's see. We have a lot of marketers today. We also have some founders, co-founders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs. So it looks like we are going to have an exciting little talk today. And as far as we have the target audience that we actually work with, as well as Liron. So to give a little bit of structure to our today's presentation, first off, we'll have Liron present on some rules for authentic networking as well as how to perfect your pitch. I will talk about some social roles when it comes to networking and interaction, as well as on how to build community. And in the end, we'll also address some of the questions from the audience. So with that, Liron, please take it away.
All righty. Thank you so much. So thanks for the intro, and hello, everybody. It's great to be here. And I just want to emphasize what you just said about the fact that we want it to be very interactive. So feel free to ask us questions. Of course, we're going to have the actual Q&A part, but feel free to interact and say and ask questions as we go, and we either answer them during the presentation or at the end. Great, so let's start with what I prepared for you guys today. We're going to talk about a few parts: authentic networking, how to perfect your pitch, and also how to break the ice with almost anybody. And I'm going to dive into it in a minute because there is so much, I guess, authenticity comes in the place where we want to interact with people because we need to achieve some goals. You know, everyone wants to get either clients or investors or co-founders. We all have our needs, and I really encourage you to write, what are your business goals? What are you looking to find? So I'll be happy to read it in the comment, in the chat area. And it starts with interaction. So how do we interact authentically and feel good about ourselves and show people who we are? How do we convey what we do in our personal pitch? And how do we break the ice? I know, do you also feel like kind of uncomfortable when you try to break the ice with people? Basil? is probably on mute. He'll be back in a minute.
Yes, I'm here. Yes,
yeah.
definitely. Okay, now I'm prepared. I unmuted myself, so I'll make sure to interact with you.
Yeah, sure. So just asking about breaking the ice, how do you feel about it?
Oh, so I feel that a lot of entrepreneurs have challenges with it, and yeah, so that's definitely something that in many cases doesn't come naturally. So I'm actually looking forward to learn some specific strategies from you. So I've been networking pretty much for the last 3 years, and for me it came with practice. I tell you that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so important. Eventually, it's about practice. You know, practice makes perfect, as they say, and there's no shortcut or easy way. So let's just dive in. And again, I encourage you to share your business goals and tell us what you are looking for as an entrepreneur or marketers as well. So a little bit about me in short, so you can read it. I won't going to go over everything, but basically I'm a business networking coach and international speaker. I developed the 5-pillar method of effective networking, which is the process that I teach, which helps entrepreneurs, small business owners, students, career-oriented people to achieve their goals through relationships, work on their image, on their networking strategy, interpersonal skills, how to maintain relationships, and of course, how to get results. I was lucky and privileged to work with entrepreneurs and startups from most of the world, a lot of more than 10 or 11 countries in all continents. I founded a networking group in Israel. I write for the Huffington Post, and I love people smiling and having a good time. This is it. Let's dive in. So, okay. So let's start with authentic networking. So how to feel more comfortable and share your strengths and qualities when you communicate with new people. So, you know, eventually when we go and we interact with people, let's take a networking event situation or, you know, kind of meetings. It's a lot about how we feel about ourselves, and some people, you know, feel really comfortable about bringing themselves out there, but some people not. And when we show authenticity, when we show kind of who we are, it usually works better, and people sense when it's fake or when it's real. Now, I don't think we can be 100% real when we interact with new people, because there are always some kind of, you know, worries or thoughts that basically come up. But we can be more. We can be more authentic. And building relationships is a process that, you know, it's over time. It's built over time, and it works best when the foundation is real and honest. Now, as I said, we all have business goals, and there's always a reason to create a relationship with someone, but the foundation, if it's a little personal and real, it works way better. Now, we all have a lot of fears. Everyone has them in a certain extent. Most of us, and I know me as well, think what would people say to me or about me? Is this person that I'm speaking with right now, does he like me? Does he think I'm this and that? And when we focus on this kind of inner chatter, it really prevents our ability to bring ourselves to this chat. So when we create relationships, when we feel more self-value and we more accept ourselves, it just goes way better. So when we become real and we connect to who we are, the result is that we're happier, we feel more comfortable, we accept and even forgive ourselves sometimes, and we can enjoy the situation. You know, networking is a lot about enjoying the situation, and again, the business world is a lot about meeting people, creating collaborations. And I want to give you a few tools that will help you connect to this authentic place when you meet other people. So kind of like a switch that when you actually activate these tools, you can feel more comfortable about who you are and the amazing things that you have to bring to any relationship or conversation. So let's go through this tool. So this is the first one. So how to feel more comfortable. Let me just make sure. So the first one is choose to talk about topics you're passionate about and that connects you to your identity, authenticity, and true self. So what do I mean by that? So when we talk about a subject that is part of who we are, something that we really feel good about and enthusiastic about, our truth just comes out, you know, without even worried about it. So, and when there is this flow of chat, when we speak about something we like, also our authenticity comes out. So there are different topics that we feel so comfortable to talk about and so assured about ourselves, and you should navigate the conversation to talk about these topics and make sure it's topics that other people can relate to. So it will create more connections. So for example, if this is like very common for women, if you can have kids and you want to talk about your kids, this is a subject that most women are very enthusiastic about and always connects women together. Other topics can be your field of expertise. You can probably talk a lot about what you do. Is there any sport or another field that you like or find interesting? Music, food, and courses you took and you want to talk about. So make sure the conversation also interests the other person, but make a list of topics that you feel so excited and enthusiastic to talk about, because these are the topics that will help you, sorry, New York City, it's a little noisy, that will help you bring your authentic self out there. Now, the second one is in authenticity is to prepare 2 or 3 stories that show how you achieved something or how you became who you are today. Because guys, we all remember things and people through stories. Stories are such a strong tool to use. So we can use stories to show who we are and also help people connect with us. So here are a few examples. Authentic stories can aim to relate to, the stories can relate to your clients or people that you wish to meet with, and you can touch the people by telling the story. For example, how you did whatever you can to meet this person, and eventually you did it. So this shows about how persistent you are, and that you don't take no for an answer, and you achieve your goal. But then again, so it can show different values about yourself and how people connect to who you really are. And understand that you're a person that they would like to work with because of X, Y, Z qualities. You can share how your values were shaped in a story. Some ideas about good stories could be overcoming adversities, us versus them stories, successes and failures, of course, life-changing experiences, why one thing happened and that led you to where you are today, people who influenced you. So these are the kind of ideas that I encourage you should definitely write down and prepare before you meet people, so you'll have them in store, and then you can always pop them up and talk about them. The third thing about authentic networking is to emphasize ways you can help others. Now, guys, there's so much power in giving and helping, and I'm sure you know it, but there is something else when you meet someone and you feel that you can contribute or help. It also gives you a sense of worth and a sense of self-assured and also authenticity. So if you really want to help someone and you really say it, it will make you feel good, and it will connect you, and it will emphasize your authentic self. So we all have something to give, and here are a few ideas. So if you have a knowledge in a certain field, you can give this knowledge and share advice, showing your empathy for someone, share your connections in your industry, give access to decision makers, to media outlets, and many, many more. So in terms of networking, and especially this topic, it only works when it's real. This is the authentic networking. Basil, are you okay? Have you been following? I haven't been following the questions, but we would love.
Yeah, I'm here. It's all great. So why don't we continue, and then we'll have a quick interaction after the first portion of the presentation.
Sure. So a few 2 topics. So this is about your personal pitch, my friend. So your personal pitch, basically, the role of a personal pitch is about presenting the essence of who you are to new people. Now there's like a very short attention span. Like people have around 30 seconds to listen to you and to try to pick up who you are. This is why when you present yourself, it should be short and simple. It should be structured, and it should be adjusted, which means if you're a marketing manager, and we have a few on the call, so when you meet a client, your pitch probably addresses the client's need. But if you meet a fellow marketer, your pitch might be more about cooperation or different goals. So a winning personal pitch is about showing who am I and what do I do, then explaining who do I do it for, and the main solution I offer. So here is, like you probably can see on the screen, like kind of a basic outline of how you can present yourself. And this is very easy because it's structured and it taps all the important information. So I can give you an example. So, hi, I am, let's say, Liron Glickman, and I'm a business networking expert, and I help entrepreneurs, startups, and business owners to achieve their goals through relationship building. Bam. This is short, and this brings the main information that people would like to know about me. So I can really encourage you to write this base down. And we want to make it interesting, right? Like we don't want our pitch to sound like everybody else's. So here are a few ideas to spice up your pitch. The first one is how you say it, okay? We all say it in a different way. So be enthusiastic. So say like you mean it. And enthusiasm, but be yourself. So add your level of enthusiasm. Also add a smile. It also helps to bring more spice in the pitch. The yes effect. So there is a thing when we say yes to something, so we actually, when you ask a question and someone says yes, so it's kind of obligated to hear the answer. So let me explain. For example, so you can go to someone and just ask a question that leads to who you are. So do you think that managing your finances is important? And the person would answer yes. Wonderful. So I am this and that, and I can manage your finances for you. There is another question. Just try to find a question that relates to what you do. Wouldn't you like to add another hour to each day? Yes. Okay, so I am this and that, and I'm an owner of a time management phone app. So try to use the yes effect on what you do. Social proof, it's like dropping, like name dropping, but in a nice way. We all like to know that what we do, or that the person we're speaking with has got a social proof. So other people like what he's doing, and this is just basically help us get more credibility. So you can always add to your pitch. You can say, my name is, and I'm this and that, and I'm the owner of this business. And even John Smith, the CEO of this company, really liked the solution my startup provides. Or you can say, our clients are very supportive and love our services. We're very lucky. There are two examples, and it's important to drop it, not say like just want to brag about it, but really like as a part of the conversation. Another one is creative job description. So if you remember our sentence, instead of saying, I am Liron Glickman, I'm a business networking coach, and I do this and that, you can just say, I'm Liron Glickman, I am XYZ, and I help people succeed in the game of life. Like, what do you mean? What do you do? I'm a coach. So if you change the job description to something more interesting and exciting and catchy, people will be more interested in you. So you could also say, hi, my name is this and that, and my app helps people share their thoughts, emotions, and experience quickly with each other. What do you mean? So what do you do? I own WhatsApp app. So this is another example of using a creative job description instead of saying what you really do. And it's important to always think, how can this apply to you? Last but not least is the breaking the ice. So I have a broad method of attractive and interactive methods to breaking the ice, which means different methods that can help people come to you, and then, which is the attractive ones, and then interactive ones where basically you break the ice with other people. Now, as we started, breaking the ice is not easy. It does involve with experience, with trial. And I think most of my clients always say that they feel fake and they don't feel comfortable. And I want it to be more comfortable and natural. And I'm going to share a few of this whole method with you right now in order to help you do it a little easier and a little more natural. So let's start with a Q&A spin. So many conversations and events leave a certain amount of time for Q&As, right? Conventions and events. So those who have questions to ask and who get the spotlight, like the 15 seconds of fame, then when the spotlight's aimed at them for a minute or so, this is where you guys can introduce yourself, when you ask a question in a big forum of people, so everyone can enjoy the answer the presenter provides, and you can say who you are. So you basically should create a situation where everyone gets value thanks to you. So why not let everyone know who you are as well? So my guidelines for this is basically to share your question, but beforehand share your full name and then share your question. So here is an example. So you can say, hi, my name is John Smith. I'm the founder of X startup that provides that solution, and my question is this and that. The right people will approach you after the Q&A session is over. I can definitely guarantee that. Just make sure to do it authentically and in the right way and not be too salesy. Another method is immediate common ground. Common ground is such an amazing tool. Like, we all connect to things that are familiar to us. It's so easier for us to engage in a conversation. So you can start, for example, like the immediate common ground means like engage in a conversation about something that is just close to you, that both of you are experiencing right now. So you can ask people about the buffet, about their opinion about the event or the speakers, if they found any interesting connections so far, about the decoration. Just comment about things that both of you are experiencing right now, as long as they are positive, because you want to make sure the conversation will go on the positive side. So this is how you just break the ice, ask a question, make sure it's positive about something you're both experiencing right now. And then, hi, my name is Liron, by the way. What is your name? And take the conversation from there. Last but not least is about assistance. Now, we can ask for assistance, and when we ask for assistance, we kind of start the conversation on a help kind of, giving, act of giving basics. So there are all kinds of ways to ask for assistance where it is natural and not, too intimidating, and then you can introduce yourself. So I like to divide it into directions, items, and clarifications, which means that you can approach someone at an event and say, do you know where the drink bar is, or where are the restrooms? Thank you for your answer. By the way, I am Liron, and nice to meet you, and let's keep on talking. Can you borrow your pen? Could you pass me the stall, please? Thank you so much. My name is this and that. And did you hear about what the speaker just said? What time should we get back from our break? So just try to ask those natural questions and get the conversation going from that point onward. Sorry, it's New York City, and I cannot control the fire truck. So the key takeaways from this short lecture is let your authentic self shine by leading the conversation to places you feel comfortable at and that represent who you are. Prepare a personal pitch that describes who you are, and don't be afraid to dare or be creative, and break the ice in a way that feels comfortable and not intimidating and natural. That's me, and thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liron. And I know that you also prepared a special gift for today attendees. Here, I encourage you to go to that URL. And actually, I have a few questions specifically on that, on the small talk, and that pre-course that you have. So you mentioned that in the portion of perfecting your pitch, you mentioned that there's a formula there about introducing yourself and what you do. Is it something, when do you actually introduce yourself? Do you start with a small talk? Do you introduce yourself directly at the networking event? Just imagine yourself. What would you do? You enter the room. The room is full of people having conversations. Everyone is engaged, right? And you just by yourself trying to break their ice, break into the conversation. What would be your step-by-step process for that?
Well, that's a great question, and actually the full answer is in this course, so I definitely invite you to sign up. This is a three-day course. Basically, look, there is no, it's not like a cookie cutter. Like, every interaction, of course, is different, but there are still some main, I would call them phases in each meeting. So let's say we're, as you said, in a networking event, there's a lot of people around us, and we're starting to engage in a conversation with someone. So the first part of the conversation is the intro, then the connection, then the continuity. So the intro part is, the order is not necessarily the same, but The intro part is, first of all, we read the other person's body language. We might, shake hands. We introduce ourselves. Now, it doesn't necessarily happen in the same order, but, first of all, we assess the person that is in front of us. So you should find the right time to introduce yourself. Sometimes coming, up front and say, hi, I'm this and that, is just too much intimidating. So you should be sensitive enough to know when is the right time to introduce yourself within the initial interface. Then the connection part is like when you actually speak and you create more connection and bond and good rapport with the other person. And then if you want to continue the conversation, you just make sure to do the continuity part. So I hope I answered the question.
It totally makes sense. And just to build on that, by the way, if you would like to tweet, I hope everybody got the URL right. But if not, I'm going to send it via follow-up email. If you would like to tweet anything from today's webinar, if you find any of those key takeaways valuable, feel free to let us know. Just to build up on what you just said, Liron, one of the things that I realized that was really useful for me going to tons and tons of networking events here in Silicon Valley, and I prefer to go by myself. I think this is the right way to go, because if you go with friends, you end up talking to them the whole evening and you don't really meet new people or valuable connections at all. So what I usually do, I usually approach a group of people, and the number one thing is just really get yourself comfortable with the environment. If you feel comfortable, people wouldn't think that you're creepy approaching a group of people, even they're engaged in the conversation. And one of the first steps for me was to really get comfortable with myself, and when they don't feel the nervous energy from you, you don't even have to say anything. The conversations just start. That's what ended up happening. So, so just on breaking the ice. And just before I start my own presentation, I also wanted to get into your Q&A spin portion. I thought it was really interesting. Can you give an example which situation you actually recommend using that Q&A spin? Because I wouldn't imagine that you will be using that asking a question from a stranger, right, at the networking event, a specific question, or is that the case?
Thanks for referring to that if it wasn't so clear. So the idea of the Q&A spin is basically when you're at a convention or at an event with a lot of people. So let's say you're in a big convention and you cannot really, it's impossible to meet everyone, of course, always. But if you want to create an advantage for yourself, then if you're in the hall, someone is speaking, and then I'm talking like when you're actually sitting, at the venue itself, listening to someone speak. Maybe there's a panel on the stage, and then they say, okay, Q&A, who wants to ask questions? So this is where you can stand up, introduce yourself again, not necessarily, very short, and then ask your question. Because at this moment, people can listen to you and see, okay, this guy is doing this and that. Maybe I should approach him after the Q&A session is over. And that's how you basically attract people to you.
Oh, it totally makes sense, and especially asking the right question, so which almost give you that media attention. And if the question is very relevant, if you properly introduce yourself and speak with authority, it could be a huge benefit to get featured almost as a speaker in front of the audience, right?
That's a great point, definitely.
And one of the things, just to add to this, I feel that a lot of people who ask questions at the conferences and events, sometimes what they fail, they don't wait until the microphone is handed to them and they don't introduce themselves. So this is going back to really those fails when you try to get the exposure. Because first, the question is not being recorded properly. If you don't have a microphone, nobody can hear you, and then people don't know who you are. So don't do that.
Great point. Great point. Be aware of how people perceive you when you speak as well. Yeah.
Okay. And with that, Liron, I will just hand it off to you, the chat moderation portion, and I will provide a little bit of an insight on how we manage and produce networking events at Startup Socials. The way we started is from a small Silicon Valley mixer for 20 people with an idea to connect entrepreneurs, founders, co-founders, and we grew into larger events with 15 chapters around the world throwing parties, mixers, and smaller private networking events for entrepreneurs, founders, co-founders, as well as marketers, which we have many here on today's call. So what I'm going to cover today is a networking formula that I felt that works every single time. If you really like to get value from a networking event that you attend, then something that might be interesting for our attendees today, some social labels that I found are really beneficial if you take on that role and play it in the social environment, such as social architect and super connector. And I will wrap up with the next steps when you're completely comfortable with networking that would allow you to really build your powerful network by building your own community. So I wrote that article on Business to Community recently, and I'm going to send you a link. So I'm not going to bore you going over every single point here, but the idea behind it, I got really frustrated with all of the networking events because I felt that here in Silicon Valley, for example, and I know that we have many attendees joining from all over the world, there's always that disconnect when you enter the room. Person who checks you in gives you a sticky label or badge, and then, especially if you're by yourself, you really don't know who to approach. You just observe the room. Some people are here not necessarily for networking. A lot of people here for beer and pizza, especially in the startup world. So I was trying to figure out what would be the best way to make networking efficient, both from the perspective of myself hosting a networking event, as well as from perspective of attending a not networking event. So if you just networking for the sake of just meeting new people or introducing yourself to new people, it's a very bad goal, in my opinion. And I think the best way to go about it is to really put it on the paper. What is your goal of attending that very specific particular event? It could be, for example, if you're a startup, to find a potential founder or co-founder. If you're a marketer looking for a job, it could be finding a job for a reputable brand, or connect with a colleague, another marketing director, and discuss particular marketing challenges that you might have. So one of your, after you identify your big goals, you narrow it down to who will be at the event. And we did a lot of surveys that we send a lot of surveys to our Startup Socials community. One interesting thing that we found out, that number one reason why people actually attend networking events, first, because they have time. Entrepreneurs and marketers are extremely busy. Second, the reason is actually people who will be at the event. And only the third one is content. So try to find out who are the people who will be at the networking event, and finally try to find out what kind of value you can bring to them. For example, a lot of networking events that I personally attend, I usually aim to meet an event organizer, because I like to meet other community builders and organizers, so we can figure out the way how we can build and engage our community together. So I usually, that's my primary goal, just as an example. So to expand on that, social architect is something that we invented here in Startup Socials. It's actually a person who connects others at the networking events. For example, this is Claudia. She's a social architect at the Startup Social Mixer that took place about a year ago. So what she's doing here, she's connecting to founders that have a very similar background, and they potentially, based on our research that we have done, and this is something that Social Architect also does, we realized that it's beneficial for both of them to meet together. And what she does, she's not focuses her attention on herself. She just connects them, and then she moves to the next person who she needs to get connected. And that's pretty much her role. And when you provide that much value by connecting people at the networking event the whole time, believe me, it will be huge benefit for you in general, because people would remember that. And going a little bit deeper, diving a little bit deeper, after you master the art of being a social architect, the next level is super connector. Those people are usually not only good socially, but they also domain and niche experts when it comes to specific specific niche or the nature of your business. For example, if you are a lawyer, right? If you're a startup lawyer, this is a very specific niche. And you go to a networking event and you can mentor entrepreneurs, your potential customers, sharing with them free advice without expecting anything in return. Eventually they would remember you when they would need your services. And then those super connectors who are connecting people based on their specific needs and goals and who are domain experts, they have a huge potential of becoming industry leaders and thought leaders down the road. So I'm going to skip one slide here for the sake of time. I want to make sure we have time to address, to dive into Q&A after this presentation. But so after you attended several networking events, after you practiced the art of social architect and super connector in general, one of the things that I would recommend is to build your own community around you. So by going to networking events, you already understand your audience. You know how to help your audience, and eventually you're becoming that go-to person that people always reach out to when they need either an introduction or an advice. So you want to be that person. And that's how you build trust, because before you do anything with your community, before you engage, you approach, or you provide any value proposition, and down the road potentially service a product for your community, you have to build that trust. And a lot of people think that you have to shoot for the stars and try to target a very large community on the first place. But what it really starts with is 100 of your true friends, 100 of people, or sometimes it could be even 10 of those who really passionate about what you do, who share the same vision, who are part of the same sub-segment or social group that you belong. So that's the one that you need to have conversations first. So just last week I was given a workshop on community building, and we talked about a few interesting things on how to build community fast, how to generate that first 100 friends and or 10 friends that will help spread the word about your community. So one of the things that came up is really blogging, and this is a good way to start. However, I feel that it's not a good way to start. It's a good way to build a thought leadership, but it's a very long shot and long-term strategy. So one of the things that from my previous experience, I realized in terms of building a powerful network, building a personal brand, expanding your growth, the fastest way is actually to host your own events. And it could be a small meetup. It could be a small networking mixer. And one of the actionable steps here before we get back to the networking part, and Liron and I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have here. Just wanted to share one actionable step that you can do today to get your first community member. And each of you, I'm sure, has a product or service that, or potentially planning to start a company, or maybe a part of the company that already have products and services that have some very loyal customers. So what I recommend doing for those customers, if you're not doing that already, is actually hosting a small event. And with that, you can really very quickly start it on meetup.com, which has 22 million members right now, over 2,000 groups. It takes about, I would say, maybe 20 minutes to set up the whole meetup and get your first community members on board. So this is just something where you can get started on the community building end. And this is an example of a meetup of a person who organized it about, I think, 3 or 4 days ago, and she got that 15 members. It looks like the meetup is weekly meditation, which we could see the community leader here. Seems like she has been meditating for quite a bit. So people can identify themselves with her. And that's how you start on the community building part. So I'm going to just a recap of with everything that we talked about today. And in terms of the actionable steps, Liron talked about how to perfect your pitch. Then one of the advice is to really go to networking events, become a social architect and super connector, and then build your community. I also would like to invite everybody who attended today's webinar to join, especially those of you who are in San Francisco. Actually, a lot of people are not in San Francisco, so definitely recommend some of the. I will recommend a few webinars, and to those of you who are not in San Francisco Bay Area. But for those who are, I hope to see you next week at the Startup Socials Mixer, and I'll be sending you an invitation next week, so hopefully you can connect with fellow entrepreneurs and marketers over there. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box, and Liron and I will have about 5 minutes before we wrap up. We'll be happy to address those. So Liron, do you have any questions? Do you want to expand on any community building while we're waiting for questions?
Yes, I wanted to say a few things. First of all, I love what your presentation and the important information that you shared. I think a great point was about to kind of plan your event in advance, and I call it like create your event game plan. So you can research, as you said, about who will attend the event. Even check who are the guests, who are the speakers, who are the sponsors. Maybe sometime a sponsor is a company or a person that you want to meet with. Another thing is about taking action, as you said, hosting an event, hosting your own meetup, even opening your own LinkedIn group. But you know what? I know there's a lot, but not everyone feels so comfortable to do so. And I can say also about myself, when I started my path, it's not easy to necessarily do it. So I encourage you to take a friend, take an accountability friend, so that you can support on his path and he can support you. That can really help you get better results and really influence your community and share the great thing that you have to share with them.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, just to echo on that note, specifically if you're hosting your first event, a lot of entrepreneurs and as well as other community leaders who are just starting out approach me and they ask me, so how do I get a good guest to join a webinar? How do I find a speaker? Who am I to just even talk in front of the people, right? So this is something that you really need to get rid of, all of those limiting beliefs. And if you are really passionate about topic or you are a niche expert in a very specific niche, you know probably a lot about your product and service, you are the one who you can host an event. And when you, let's say you set up a meetup, you have about 20 people who RSVP to that event, and it's really easy to achieve. So this is what I would encourage you is to reach out to someone who is award-winning author or who is a New York Times best-selling author and just saying, hey, I have that community members who would love to see you speak. And you will be surprised. In so many cases, those big names, they would be ready to accept and speak in front of the very small group of people, which would add a lot of credibility to you. And just by you introducing that person on stage will also position you as an authority.
Exactly. That's such a great tip. And as you said, a lot of big shot people are so happy to come and help. And I think a lot of people in general, really help to come and share, because everyone likes and enjoys to share what they have to say to the world. So it's like a win-win-win situation. Everyone can win. You approach this authority, he comes to you, you raise your own personal brand, everyone's enjoying. Yeah,
so I wanted to actually have a question here from the audience. So one of the guys was wondering, he was at the event the other week, at the networking event, and he got approached by an engineer who was trying to pitch him a mobile app off the bat without basically introducing himself. What would be your advice to that engineer? And I guess obviously follow your 3-step method, but what would be that specific advice that how would you even start working with that person, let's say, if he would be your client?
I think the question should be, would you like to work with that person? You know, he might be a great person, he might be a very good person, but I also experienced something like that when I was at an event and someone came with an iPad and, hi, this is my product, would you like to buy it? And I don't know, you know, you need to first of all create the know, like, and trust factor, and this is why we need to kind of schmooze and talk at the beginning and say our names and introduce ourselves. Then we get to know the person. Then as the conversation goes by, we may even get to like the person. And then at some point we would trust and want to, you know, to stay in touch with this person. You know what I'm saying? So you have the right to choose who you want to bring into your life. And sometimes just starting a conversation like that can really ruin for this person who just didn't know how to do it right. And he might be a great person with a great product, but you need to make your own, I guess, to think who you want to get into your circle, into your network.
Yeah, it makes sense. And speaking of which, also, how do you escape some of the time-wasting conversations? Because obviously you would like to be polite, and let's say and I have my own opinion on that, but I wanted to hear yours. When you're part of the conversation and you got into it, and then you just realize it's not leading anywhere.
Exactly. So I'm just looking, as we speak, I'm looking for my article about useful exit tactics to end a conversation. That can give you, like, I think around 18 or 20 different sentences you can actually use to exit a conversation. I will, 1 second, let me, I'll just paste the link as we speak.
Yeah, and shoot me that link as well, because what I'll do right now, I'll prepare an email. We'll have a lot of people who will watch that webinar on demand who are not able to join us on Friday night, Friday evening. So we'll have that presentation pre-recorded. So I'll make sure to send all the resources to everyone.
That's fantastic. So I'll send it to you, and you can also see it in the chat box. So, you know, there's a lot of ways, but I think the basic, the rule of thumbs are, first of all, to be respectful, as you said. We meet this person. Maybe he doesn't mean to be annoying, but that's what happened, and we might going to see him again. We should try to leave a good taste, you know, like end it with a smile or, you know, or a nice word. But sometimes we need to be assertive. So, you know, I would say thank you so much. That's been very interesting. But I would like to see. I'll see you later. I would like to go and see some more people, or there is someone I need to meet here. So it was wonderful speaking with you, and I have your card. I will be happy to call you. So find your own way how to be respectful, how to leave a good taste, but then say what you have to say. And you can definitely try my link and just go and read all those like 18 different sentences you can use.
Yeah, and I'm actually copying and pasting it for myself to read it the first thing after this webinar. But one of the things that I realized for myself, I always had a very hard time doing that. So one of the rules that I invented for myself, if I'm already in that type of conversation, I failed. So when I go to networking events, I always try to meet the people that I really need to be talking to, who I can help achieve their business goals or who can help me. And sometimes it doesn't happen that way, but if you're really strategic about networking, if you know in your goals, one of the things, for example, you can do, you can schedule a meeting at the networking event, which I started to do quite frequently. Instead of meeting during the regular hours, I schedule a meeting at the networking event. And when what I'm doing, I'm bringing be my business partner to a networking event, which is hopefully has a great environment, some great people. And not only I have a meeting with that partner, I also do a little bit of research on who else will be at the event, and I introduce that partner to other people. So that's something that worked for me. And if you're really talking to a lot of people, of course, here and there, some people would approach you, and you don't really want to brush them off and be really rude. But that decreases the chances of you being in the conversations that are not relevant.
I love what you say because I think the strategy part is so important. Like we have a business plan, we have a marketing plan. Why won't we have a networking plan? And that could be like a yearly networking plan or even an event-based networking plan. And I'm sure people ask you, like tell you that I always go to networking events and nothing never happened. I just spend time. But if people would ask just like you say, be more prepared, have a certain goal for the event, they would feel that they got something out of it. So those 2, 3, 4 hours weren't for nothing. So they had their goals, they met those people, and I usually have at least 2 to 3 people goals at any event. So once I reached them, I said, okay, so this was a well-spent time, and then
Absolutely.
keep on going. So I think I really emphasize what you just said. It's so important. Any more tips that you have?
Any more tips? Well, let me think about that.
What is your best opening sentence? If there's any specific sentence that you use? Or question that you like to use?
It's interesting. I actually, what I try to do when I approach a group of people, for example, and I like to approach a group of people, I listen to conversation first. I never really introduce myself off the bat at all, because I only introduce myself when it's really relevant, and what ends up happening, people acknowledging me, and I carry on the conversation and only say something when I can add value to it. And then at some point, when I feel that the time is right, when the social dynamic and conversation, I actually introduce myself when I see, and this goes along mostly when when I like to network with strangers, right? So I'm putting myself in that shoes of a person who, let's say, for example, I'm in the new city, right? Or it just ended up to be that I don't have a specific person to meet, so which it shouldn't be the case. But I don't introduce myself off the bat. So, and I usually, what I like to do, I like to exchange LinkedIn information rather than business cards, because I personally feel that I never had any success with business cards in general. I have a bunch of them laying right now in my drawer, and I don't know what to do with them. So if I really, one of the things that I do if I meet somebody, I try to shoot that person an email from my cell phone right away, or connect with that person on LinkedIn.
I see. This is a great way. And I think on this note, it's important to be active. A lot of take action. I think most of my connections, most of the time I meet people and exchange information, I am the one who sends the email. So most people just don't take action. And it can be for many different reasons. That, just don't wait and don't feel like why the person didn't call or why, he said he will do something or not. If you want something, just take action and just go for your goals and for relationship building. And yeah, I think this is a very important rule. There is so much, in this whole relationship building world. And as you said, listening, it's a very, very important core basic skill that really help us connect to other people.
Yeah. Speaking on the relationship building, just to build on that a little bit, and following up, which is crucially important. And sometimes I feel that the worst case that you can do, let's say you asked for the introduction from someone, and somebody provided you an introduction to a person that you really want to get connected to, then you just really wait a day or two before you follow up. So I've noticed that it happens sometimes. So because not only you jeopardize your relationship with the person who introduces you, you also show the other person who you're being introduced to that you probably don't really need it that much, right? So that's something that I just want to add there. And I personally, it happened to me when I've done it, and sometimes I had those nightmares in the shower when I'm just remembering that I totally forgot to follow up with someone, but which leads to a long explanation later. But those things might seem that they're not very important, but they're crucially important.
Yeah, it's important. It happens. First of all, it happens to everybody. But then again, yes, it's important to kind of. I agree with you because if someone introduces you to someone, he wants to help you. He wants to benefit you, or he thinks he can benefit you. And even if it doesn't help, it's just being respectful and answering this email. But generally speaking, getting following up, it's an important topic that we didn't really get the time to speak about. But eventually, it's all about the long run and who you choose and how you maintain relationships. And you don't have to be in touch every day and be creepy, but set your own system. There are also about apps that are out there to help us do it. But I really encourage you to set your own systems, how and maybe Excel sheets or use different apps. And see how you can follow up with people every now and again. You can never know where the right people will come from, where the right deal, where the right opportunity, and just keep your good network close to you.
Great. And I think we just have time for one more question here.
Chi-Chi is here. Oh my God! I'm sorry, my friend Chi-Chi. She's a networking. Also networking expert, from Atlanta, Georgia, and she runs a group there. How are you, Chi-Chi?
Oh, awesome. Chi-Chi, I'm sure if Chi-Chi could hear us, he would say hello, but he just typed in the question via chat. So the question is, once you have built trust with someone at the event, how do you ask for something without sounding needy?
Interesting question. What is your answer, if you wanted to answer that?
So my answer is don't ask for anything first. So when you build trust, instead of asking for something, just try to help first. And then in the future, when you feel that you really established the relationship with the person and you're very comfortable with the person, then you shouldn't be even thinking, I think, how to ask. Because if you really build your network and if you have a strong, powerful network, you should just ask without any hesitation. Because and some people they would take some time for some people to make that inner circle where you can actually ask for anything without any hesitation. For some of them, they would be in your circle much faster. But I think it all depends how many people you help and how much you help others. And then so you can trust those people to be here here for you when you need them, if it makes sense.
Beautiful. I really agree with you. And I want to add on that first of all, it's also about how you feel with yourself. Do you feel needy? And I'm sure there's no need to come across as a needy person. I do agree, like you said, I like to help. I'm a helper, I'm a giver, and I feel more comfortable and I like to help first before I ask. But, I came to a situation recently that I just moved from Israel to New York City. I'll tell you the story a few months ago. And I came to a place where it's not my natural playground, and I need to ask more than I usually ask in Israel. Usually in Israel, I'm the one who helps and gives the whole connection. And now I'm in a position where I really need to ask for help. And I do it. I never even felt like it's in a needy way. I just explained the situation and knew it's like that this is what I'm looking for. If you think you can help me or know someone, that would be great. I will really appreciate it. But I don't feel first of all, it's about feeling, and then it's about what you say. I don't come across as like, there's so many people out there, so the help will come from some people that I know. So, when you create this authentic I guess it's also about how you feel about yourself. Like you go out there, you enjoy the conversation, you try to really feel comfortable with the person you're speaking with, and then you can feel comfortable to ask a question. And even if you don't feel comfortable, and I can say that I met some people, and sometimes I just force myself to just ask what I need, because right now I need something and I want to ask for it. And I know that thousands of other times I was the one who was helping others. So it's okay to take control and just say what you feel. That's totally fine. Just go for it.
Yeah, and actually it's a great point. I haven't thought about this from that angle, and I totally agree that if you need something, you just need to ask for it. There is no if you feel that you will be needy by asking that, maybe it's because you're being needy. You just have to authentically ask for help, and knowing that that person that you can trust, who is a part of your trustworthy network, that if that person would be in the same situation as you are, you would help that person without any questions and a second thought. So from that perspective, I totally agree with you, Liron. And unfortunately, we ran out of time. Actually, we're running 2 minutes after. Yeah, it was such a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Startup Socials webcast series. And I also wanted to thank all of the attendees here for being with us. So we'll be sending some more information with Liron resources as well as mine, and looking forward to seeing you at the next webinar. And have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Bill, thank you so much for having me, and thank you all. Thanks for everything.
All right. Have a great weekend, Liron, and everyone.
You too.